Welcome to Whisper Secrets, where the most intimate mysteries come to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you never miss a secret. Now, let's pull back the veil. I always thought I knew everything about my life. I had built a comfortable world for myself, good friends, a successful business, a beautiful wife, and a future that seemed bright. My name is Greg, and I spent years working my way up, putting in the hours, the effort, the sacrifices. I had earned everything I had. Or so I thought. But as the days turned into months, and the whispers of something strange began to settle into my thoughts, I started to realize that everything I believed in was a lie. It all began subtly, small things at first. My wife, Emily, began spending more time away from home, always having business meetings, or appointments, that kept her busy late into the evenings. I didn't think much of it at first. Emily had her own work, and I trusted her completely. But trust, as I learned the hard way, is fragile. What shattered it completely, however, wasn't just her late nights or vague excuses. No, it was the night I walked into my own living room and saw her with him, James. James was my best friend. He had been there for me through thick and thin, supporting me when I was starting out, always by my side. He was the brother I never had. Or at least, that's what I had thought. I trusted him, just as much as I trusted Emily. But there they were, sitting too close, laughing a little too loud, sharing a bottle of wine. When they saw me, their faces froze. They looked guilty, like children caught stealing cookies. I didn't know what to say. My mouth was dry, my heart pounding in my chest. The betrayal was right there in front of me, undeniable. "Greg, we can explain," Emily said, her voice shaking. But I was done listening. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was what they had planned. Because in that moment, I realized something far more sinister was at play. James wasn't just my friend. He was a cop. A well-connected one, who had access to things most people could only dream of: resources, information, power. And as I began to piece together the fragments of their conversations and the way they had been acting, I started to understand what they were really after. They weren't just after my love. No, they wanted more than that. They wanted my wealth. It all started to make sense: the late nights, the secretive behavior, the plans Emily had been making with James, and how she had been looking for ways to improve her life, ways to secure her future. And then it hit me: they were going to take everything I had. They had it all figured out, meticulously planning my downfall. James, with his position in law enforcement, was the key. Together, they had orchestrated a series of false accusations, forged documents, and manipulative schemes to make me look like a criminal. They had already begun the process of setting me up, using James's power to manipulate police records, falsify contracts, and create a paper trail of illegal activities that would point directly to me. It wasn't just about taking my business or my money. They wanted me gone. Disgraced. Arrested. They wanted me to be the fall guy for crimes I never committed. I didn't know how far they had gone, but I was sure that if I didn't act fast, I would lose everything: my business, my reputation, my wealth, everything I had worked so hard for. The first step was to confront them. I walked into Emily's office, my hands shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. I couldn't believe it. She had been lying to me, betraying me all this time, and now I was about to lose everything because of her. "Tell me it's not true, Emily," I said, my voice tight with rage. "Tell me you're not in on this with James." She tried to play innocent. "Greg, please, you don't understand. We were just trying to protect ourselves. We were just trying to make sure we would be okay. I never meant for it to go this far." "Protect yourselves?" I shouted, my fists clenched. "You think I'm going to let you destroy everything I've worked for? You think I'm just going to let you and James steal my life from me?" But she wasn't sorry. Not really. She was only sorry she got caught. James appeared in the doorway behind me, his face a mask of calm, but I could see the arrogance in his eyes. "It's already done, Greg," he said, his voice cold. "There's nothing you can do to stop it now." I could feel the ground slipping out from under me. Everything I had worked for, everything I believed in, was about to be ripped from me. But I couldn't give up. I couldn't let them take everything from me. I didn't know how they planned to execute their final move. All I knew was that I had to act fast, or it would be too late. The police were already involved. My accounts were being frozen, my assets were being seized, and I was about to be hit with a series of false charges. But I still had one thing they didn't expect: I wasn't as naive as they thought. I knew what they were up to. I spent hours in my office, contacting lawyers, making arrangements, and finding every shred of evidence I could to fight back. But it wasn't just about proving my innocence. I needed to expose them. I needed to make sure that their plan would backfire. Then it happened. The police arrived. The ones they had bought off, the ones who were supposed to arrest me, were now turning on them. James hadn't expected it. He thought he had control over everything. But I had used his connections, his power, against him. I had secretly recorded their conversations, I had gathered evidence, and I had made sure the truth came out. The twist? The police weren't here to arrest me. They were here to arrest them. I watched as Emily and James were handcuffed and taken away, the weight of their betrayal crashing down on them in the most dramatic way possible. They had thought they could destroy me, but in the end, it was their own greed, their own arrogance, that had brought them down. As they were driven away in the back of the police car, I felt nothing but relief. The nightmare was finally over. The world I had lost had been returned to me, and the people who had tried to destroy me were left with nothing. But as the days went by, I realized something important. Justice had been served, but at what cost? Emily was gone, James was arrested, and I was left standing alone. They had taken so much from me, but I had finally won. The victory was bittersweet, though. In the end, I had lost more than I could ever regain. My trust, my love, and my sense of peace were shattered forever. And now, all I had left was the cold comfort of knowing that they would never hurt me again. I never thought I'd see the day when Emily would leave me. But now, as I watched her walk out the door with his child in her arms, the weight of everything she had done hit me harder than I ever imagined. She had betrayed me in the worst way possible, but I wasn't done. Not yet. I would make sure she regretted every second of it. But I wasn't just angry at her. I was furious with him. David, my best friend, the one who had taken everything from me. He thought he had won. He thought Emily was his prize, that their twisted plan would succeed. What he didn't know was that I had already begun my counterattack. I wasn't going to sit idly by and watch them destroy everything I had worked for. I would take everything from them, piece by piece, until they had nothing left. The first step was to make sure Emily knew she was going to face the consequences of her choices. She thought she could come back to me after everything, but I wasn't going to play the part of the forgiving husband who lets her back in with open arms. I wasn't going to pretend like nothing had happened. I had been nothing but good to her. I had given her everything, my trust, my loyalty, my love. And what had she given me in return? Lies. Deceit. Betrayal. And now she wanted me to be the hero, to save her after she had torn me apart? Not happening. I started with the business. Emily knew how much my company meant to me. I had worked for years to get where I was, and I wasn't about to let her and David destroy that too. They had tried to steal everything I had, emotionally and materially, but I was going to make sure they didn't succeed. I called in a few favors. I reached out to some of my business partners, ones who had been with me from the start. I made sure they knew exactly what Emily had done. I told them everything, about the affair, about her betrayal, about how she had sold me out. I didn't care if it ruined her. She had ruined me, and now it was time for her to feel the same pain. As the news of the affair spread through my circle of contacts, Emily's reputation began to crumble. Clients started pulling out of deals, partners began backing away, and before long, she found herself without a single ally. She had nothing left. And I was just getting started. But Emily wasn't the only one who needed to feel the consequences. David, my so-called friend, the man who had taken my wife, was going to pay too. I knew about his connections, his position in the police force. I knew how easily he could manipulate people, how easily he could bend a law to his will. But I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I wasn't going to let him use his badge to protect him from the fallout of his actions. I called in a few more favors. I knew people who could help me expose David for what he really was. A corrupt cop, using his position for his own personal gain. I didn't care about the consequences for him. I wanted him to feel the weight of everything he had done to me. I made sure to gather information on him, files, reports, anything that could expose his misconduct. It wasn't hard. He had been too reckless in his actions, too confident in his power. He thought he was untouchable. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. As Emily's life began to fall apart, I watched from a distance, a sense of satisfaction creeping into my chest. She had thought she could come back to me, thought she could play me like a fool. But I wasn't that man anymore. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I got the call. Emily had left me again. She had gone back to David. I wasn't surprised. I should have expected it, but it still hit me like a punch to the gut. She had walked out on me once again, after everything I had done for her, after everything I had given her. She had chosen him, again. She had chosen the man who had destroyed everything. I wasn't going to take it lying down. I had already destroyed her career, her reputation, her life. But now, it was time for David to feel the full weight of his actions. I began my final move. I gathered all the evidence I had against him, his corruption, his illegal activities, his abuse of power. I didn't need to hide it anymore. I was going to bring it all out into the open. I sent everything I had to his superiors in the police department, along with a detailed report of his actions. I made sure that every piece of evidence I had was filed, so there was no way to deny it. David's world was about to come crashing down. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. Within days, David was placed under investigation, his badge stripped, his reputation destroyed. He tried to fight it, of course, but it was too late. The truth had come out. His life was in ruins. And when I saw him standing there, humiliated, knowing that everything he had built had been torn apart, I felt a strange sense of justice. A sense of satisfaction, yes, but also a sense of emptiness. But even with all of this, I wasn't done. There was still one last piece to this puzzle, Emily. She had walked back to David, thinking she could return to him and everything would be fine. But I wasn't going to let her forget what she had done. I wasn't going to let her believe that she could walk away from the destruction she had caused. I sent her one last message. You've lost everything, Emily. Your reputation. Your career. Your friends. And now you've lost me. You think you can just walk away from this unscathed? You were never meant to be with him. You made your choice, and now you'll live with it. She didn't respond. And that was the end of it. The weeks that followed were quiet. The revenge was complete, but I realized something important in the silence that followed. The weight of my actions had caught up with me. Revenge had consumed me, and now, I was left with the fallout. They were both destroyed. Their lives, their reputations, their careers, everything they had built was gone. But in the process, I had destroyed something in myself too. I had lost my ability to forgive. I had lost the man I once was. I stood at the window, looking out over the city, and realized that in the end, none of it was worth it. The storm I had set in motion was reaching its peak. I had already done everything I could to make sure Emily and David paid for what they had done to me. My business was secure, my reputation intact. But theirs? Their worlds were crumbling, piece by piece, and it felt like there was no end in sight. But the twisted satisfaction that had come with each small victory was starting to fade. I had thought that watching them suffer would fill the hole in my chest, but all I had was emptiness. The anger was no longer enough to fuel my actions. Now, it was just bitterness. And guilt. A deep, gnawing guilt that I couldn't escape. But I couldn't stop. Not yet. Not when I was so close to the end. It was another night when I saw Emily again. She had come back to me, just as I had expected, after David had rejected her for the 100th time. I knew the cycle by heart now. She would try to run back to me, seeking refuge from the man who had used her and tossed her aside. She would come crawling back, hoping for forgiveness. But I knew better. This time, I wouldn't fall for it. When she knocked on the door, I didn't hesitate. I opened it to find her standing there, her eyes red from crying, her hair a mess, the weight of her shame hanging over her like a shroud. "Greg," she said softly, her voice trembling. I don't know where else to go." I didn't answer at first. I just looked at her, my mind racing. This was it. The last time. The final test. She had burned every bridge. She had betrayed me, torn my life apart, and now she was standing here, looking for a place to hide. But she wouldn't find refuge here. "I can't keep doing this, Emily," I said finally, my voice low, controlled. "You've destroyed everything. And now you want to come back to me? After all of it?" Her face crumpled, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. "I never meant to lose you. I was confused, and I thought I could find something with him that I couldn't find with you. But I was wrong. So wrong. Please, Greg, I'm sorry." I almost wanted to feel sorry for her. But I didn't. The woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted, was gone. In her place stood someone who had shattered my heart beyond repair. I couldn't help her. I couldn't fix what she had broken. "You don't get to come back now, Emily," I said, my voice cold and final. "You've made your choice. You went back to him, the man who never truly cared for you. And now you've lost me." Her lips trembled as she reached out for me, but I stepped back, away from her touch. "Please, Greg," she begged. "Please let me fix this. Let me fix us." "There's nothing left to fix," I said firmly. "You had your chance. And you threw it away. You don't get to walk back into my life like nothing happened." She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, her body shaking with regret. But I didn't feel sorry for her. I couldn't. She had chosen him. She had chosen to betray me, to tear everything we had apart. And now, she was paying the price. The next morning, I received an unexpected call. It was from David's lawyer. "Mr. Miller," the voice on the other end said, smooth and professional. "I'm calling on behalf of my client, Mr. David Harper. We have some concerns regarding your recent actions. Specifically, the documents you've been distributing about his involvement in the affair with your wife. We're prepared to take legal action if you continue to spread these false accusations." I laughed bitterly at the absurdity of it all. David, the man who had used his position to manipulate and destroy everything, was now playing the victim. He was trying to sue me for exposing him. But I wasn't going to let him hide anymore. I wasn't going to back down. "I'm not afraid of your threats, David," I said, my voice hard. "You've done enough to ruin my life. And now you're going to feel the consequences. You and Emily both." "I think you've already caused enough damage, Mr. Miller," the lawyer replied, his tone cold. "If you don't stop, we'll be forced to take action. It won't end well for you." I hung up, a sense of finality settling over me. They thought they could intimidate me. They thought they could make me back down. But I wasn't finished yet. I spent the next few days preparing for the final move. I wasn't going to let them ruin me. I wasn't going to let David and Emily win. I knew their secrets. I had proof of everything: David's corruption, Emily's betrayal, and the lies they had told. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. And I was going to make sure they paid for what they had done to me. I reached out to a few of my contacts, people who owed me favors, and made sure the truth about their affair was exposed. It wasn't enough to just destroy their personal lives. I wanted to make sure they were both humiliated in every way possible. I wanted them to feel the weight of their actions. But just when I thought the end was near, something happened that I didn't expect. Emily came to me one last time. This time, she wasn't pleading for forgiveness. She wasn't begging for my help. She was begging for her life. "I've lost everything," she said, her voice low. "I don't know what to do anymore, Greg. I can't go back to him. He doesn't want me. He never did. You chose him," I said, my voice sharp. "You chose to destroy everything. I was right here, and you left me for him. Now you're begging me to help you? After everything?" She dropped to her knees in front of me, tears streaming down her face. "Please, I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't know what I was doing. I was lost, Greg. I didn't know what I wanted, but now I do. Please, please help me." I looked down at her, my heart hardening. The woman I had once loved was gone. She was a shadow of what she used to be, and there was nothing left to fix. "No, Emily," I said softly, shaking my head. "You don't get to come back to me. You don't get to walk back into my life after everything you've done." I had done everything. I had destroyed their lives, their careers, their reputations. I had made sure Emily and David felt the full weight of their betrayal. And yet, as I sat there in the aftermath of it all, I couldn't escape the bitter emptiness that gnawed at me. Revenge had consumed me. I thought it would bring me peace. I thought it would heal the wound they had carved into my life. But it hadn't. It only left me feeling more broken than I had ever been before. But I couldn't stop now. Not after everything I had done. Not after everything I had lost. The phone call came late one evening, interrupting my thoughts as I sat alone in my apartment. The screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. I wasn't sure why I answered it, but I did. Maybe I was looking for something to hold on to, some kind of closure, or maybe I was just trying to make sense of everything. "Greg." The voice on the other end was shaky, full of desperation. It was Emily. I froze for a moment. I hadn't heard from her since I had last told her to leave, since I had made it clear that there was no going back. But here she was again, calling me. And I knew exactly what she wanted. "I know what you're doing," she said, her voice low and frantic. "Please, please don't do this to me. I can't take it anymore. You've ruined my life. I'm begging you, Greg. Stop." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I sat there, listening to her words, feeling a cold rush of satisfaction mixed with the hollow pain that still lingered inside me. "I don't care anymore, Emily," I said finally, my voice steady. "You made your choice. You betrayed me. You left me for him, and now you want me to fix your mess? You think I'm going to save you? I didn't mean for it to happen this way," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I was lost. I was confused. And now I've lost everything. Everything. I have nothing left, Greg. I don't know what to do." I could hear her sobbing through the phone, but it didn't move me. It couldn't. There was nothing she could say to fix what she had done. There was no forgiveness left in me. "You had everything, Emily. And you threw it all away for him. For someone who didn't even care about you. You made your bed. Now you have to lie in it." There was silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, ragged and uneven, as if she was trying to collect herself. But I wasn't interested in her apologies. I wasn't interested in what she had to say anymore. "I'm done," I said, my voice final. "I'm done with you. Don't ever call me again." I hung up without waiting for her response. The satisfaction I thought I would feel didn't come. I just felt empty. The next few days passed in a blur. I went through the motions of life, but everything felt wrong. The weight of my actions, the consequences of the revenge I had so carefully orchestrated, were beginning to settle in. I had made sure they paid. I had made sure they suffered. But what had I really gained from it? The truth was, nothing had changed. Nothing felt better. The pain was still there, the wound still open. And the more I tried to ignore it, the more it hurt. I knew that I couldn't keep living like this. I had destroyed their lives, but in the process, I had destroyed something in myself too. The man who had once trusted, who had once loved, was gone. And in his place was someone else, someone cold, bitter, and broken. Then came the final twist, the one I hadn't expected. It was a week later when I heard the news. The police showed up at my door, their uniforms sharp, their faces grim. I knew exactly why they were here. "Greg Miller?" one of the officers asked, his voice low and official. "We need to speak with you about some ongoing investigations. You're a person of interest in a case involving your wife, Emily Miller, and your former friend, David Harper." I could feel my stomach drop. The last thing I had expected was for this to escalate further. They had both done everything in their power to ruin me, but now they were trying to drag me down too. "I've already been through this," I said, my voice cold. "I've done nothing illegal." The officer didn't flinch. "We have evidence that you may have been involved in some of the activities surrounding their financial dealings. There are allegations of extortion, harassment, and other offenses. We need to ask you a few questions." I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This was the final act of their revenge. They had made sure I would pay for what I had done to them. They couldn't let it go. I knew what was happening. Emily and David had turned the tables on me, trying to make me the villain in the story they had written. But this time, I wasn't going to let them win. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, phone calls, and mounting pressure. The evidence they had against me was flimsy, but the accusations were serious. Emily and David had gone to the police, painted me as the mastermind behind their downfall. They had spun their lies into a web that threatened to trap me. But the truth always has a way of coming out. The final confrontation happened in the courthouse, in front of a judge, where the case against me was being heard. Emily and David sat across from me, their faces smug, their eyes filled with self-righteous anger. They thought they had won. They thought they had trapped me. But I had something they didn't expect. I had the truth. I had gathered every piece of evidence, every document, every record of their lies. I had proof of everything, proof of their affair, proof of the manipulation, proof that they were the ones who had orchestrated this entire mess. I handed it over to my lawyer, who made sure it was presented to the court. As the truth was revealed, their faces fell. The web they had spun around me unraveled in an instant. The lies they had told, the manipulation they had used to destroy me, it all came crashing down. The judge ruled in my favor. The charges against me were dropped, and I was cleared of any wrongdoing. When I left the courthouse that day, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. The weight of everything I had done, everything I had lost, was still there. But at least now, I knew the truth had prevailed. Emily and David had tried to destroy me. They had tried to ruin my life, my business, my reputation. But in the end, it was their lives that were ruined. And as for me, I was finally free. Thank you for being with us on Whisper's Secrets. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, drop a comment, and be sure to subscribe. The secrets are waiting to be revealed. See you soon.